The Galactic Confederation's High Command Center buzzed with unprecedented activity. Admiral Zena Vrel, her iridescent scales shifting from deep blue to anxious purple, studied the massive holographic display dominating the chamber center. A single green dot moved steadily through the three-dimensional star map, approaching Confederation space with unwavering determination. "Impossible," muttered First Observer Krill, his crystalline appendages clicking nervously against his control panel. "The humans cannot be this foolish. One ship? For first contact?" Admiral Vrel's secondary eyes narrowed, while her primary set remained fixed on the display. After 3 centuries of service to the Confederation's contact division, she had overseen 47 first contact scenarios. Every single species had approached with a fleet, some with thousands of ships, others with dozens, but never just one. "Show me the scans again," she commanded, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of experience. The hologram shifted, displaying the detailed analysis of the approaching vessel. The human ship, designated as TNV Aurora, was unlike anything in Confederation records. Its smooth, almost organic lines defied traditional shipbuilding aesthetics, and its size, barely 400 meters in length, seemed absurdly small for a first contact vessel. "What do we know about their technological progression?" Vrel asked, addressing the assembled analysts. Senior Analyst Dren Thursday, a towering Methulian with characteristic silver-streaked skin, stepped forward. "The trajectory is unusual, Admiral. 2 centuries ago, they achieved basic spaceflight. They established colonies within their solar system, then went silent for approximately 50 years. We assumed they had reached their technological plateau. But they hadn't," Vrel prompted, already knowing where this was going. "No, Admiral. 15 years ago, they simultaneously appeared on 3 worlds beyond their system. No observed transit, no traditional propulsion signatures. They simply appeared." The chamber fell silent. Even the youngest aide understood the implications. Faster-than-light travel was common enough, but instantaneous transit? That was theoretical at best, dangerous speculation at worst. First Observer Krill's crystalline form shimmered with agitation. "We should scramble the defense fleet. 1 ship or 1,000, we cannot risk dash." "No." Admiral Vrel's scales shifted to a decisive green. "We will follow first contact protocols. Prepare the diplomatic fleet." "Admiral," protested Krill, "regulations specify a minimum defensive screen of dash." "I know what regulations specify," Vrel interrupted, her scales now pulsing with subtle patterns of authority. "But consider this. Either the humans are incredibly foolish, which I doubt, or they are so advanced that they see no need for a show of force. Either way, I want to know why." The next 12 hours transformed the space around Confederation Station Alpha into a glittering display of power and protocol. 500 ships arranged themselves in the traditional greeting formation, a 3-dimensional spiral designed to showcase both military precision and peaceful intent. When the human ship finally dropped out of whatever form of transit it used, even Vrel felt her scales ripple with surprise. The TNV Aurora emerged silently, without the typical distortion field associated with faster-than-light travel. It simply appeared, as if it had always been there, its pearl-white hull seeming to capture and enhance the light of nearby stars. "Open communications," Vrel ordered, straightening her ceremonial sash. The main screen activated, revealing the bridge of the Aurora. Captain Raina Patel stood at its center, wearing a simple black uniform adorned only with a single silver insignia. She appeared human enough: bipedal, symmetrical features, dark skin, and a bearing that spoke of quiet confidence rather than military rigidity. "Greetings, Admiral Vrel," Captain Patel said in perfect Confederation standard, her voice warm and informal. "The TNV Aurora thanks you for this impressive welcome, though I fear you may have gone to unnecessary trouble." Vral's scales shifted through several colors before settling on diplomatic blue. Captain Patel, on behalf of the Galactic Confederation, we welcome humanity to our space. Your mastery of our language is impressive. Thank you, Patel smiled. We believe good communication is essential for friendship. Speaking of which, she glanced at something off-screen. You have several ships attempting to scan our vessel with military-grade sensors. While we understand the precaution, those particular frequencies are causing some discomfort to our navigation systems. Would you mind having them adjust to standard civilian bands? Vral felt her scales blanch. Those scans were supposed to be undetectable. She signaled silently to her crew, and the scans ceased immediately. Much better, Patel said, her smile unwavering. Now, shall we discuss the future? Humanity is quite eager to join the galactic community. We have so much to learn from each other. As Vral began the formal diplomatic exchange, she couldn't shake the feeling that despite all their preparations and impressive display of force, they were the ones who had much to learn. The humans had sent one ship not out of foolishness or arrogance, but perhaps because that was all they needed. The thought sent a shiver through her scales, and for the first time in centuries, Admiral Zena Vral felt truly small in the vast expanse of space. The Confederation's premier scientific vessel, the Seeker of Truth, hung in space alongside the TNV Aurora, its arrays of sensors and analytical equipment focused entirely on the human ship. Chief Scientist Rax Morel, his tentacles twitching with barely contained excitement, stared at the readings before him with all four eyes. Impossible, he whispered, not for the first time that day. The energy signatures, they simply don't make sense. Commander Lasara Vin, daughter of Admiral Vral, leaned over his station. Explain. According to every instrument we have, their ship is both here and not here. Rax's skin rippled with confusion patterns. It's as if they exist in multiple states simultaneously. The power readings fluctuate between nearly nothing and... He paused, double-checking his calculations. Enough energy to power a small star. The human vessel had agreed to a scientific exchange, but on their terms. They would demonstrate their capabilities, while Confederation scientists observed. What followed had shattered every understanding of physics the Confederation held dear. Beginning Demonstration 3, announced Captain Patel's voice over the comm. Please maintain your current distance. The Aurora's pearl-white hull began to shimmer, taking on an opalescent quality. Then, without warning or apparent mechanism, the ship split into 3 identical copies. Each copy was perfect down to the smallest detail, and according to all sensors, completely real. By the first light, breathed Lasara. How are they maintaining molecular coherence across quantum states? Before Rax could respond, the 3 ships began to move in perfect synchronization, weaving through space in what appeared to be an elaborate dance. Their movements were impossible. No known material could withstand such acceleration. No inertial dampeners could protect a crew from such forces. Captain Patel, Lasara called over the comm. Your demonstration is impressive. But surely these are projections. Holograms? Patel's laugh was warm and genuine. Not at all, Commander. Would you like to dock with all 3 versions? They're quite real, I assure you. Though I should mention, they only last about 8 hours before naturally recombining. The scientific team worked frantically, their instruments capturing every possible reading. But it was what happened next that truly demonstrated the gap between human and Confederation technology. Final demonstration, Patel announced. You might want to adjust your viewport filters. The Aurora, now recombined into a single vessel, began to glow with a soft blue light. Space itself seemed to bend around it, not in the familiar distortion of a jump drive, but in ways that made the observer's eyes hurt to watch. We call this a quantum fold, Patel explained casually, as if discussing the weather. It's really quite simple. We just choose which universe's laws of physics we prefer at any given moment. The aurora disappeared. Not with the flash of a jump drive or the distortion of a wormhole, but simply ceased to be. An instant later, it reappeared on the other side of the system. Then near a neighboring star. Then back beside the seeker of truth. Each transition was instant, without any visible means of propulsion. Rax's tentacles had gone completely still, a sign of extreme shock in his species. "They're not traveling through space," he whispered. "They're traveling through possibility." In the midst of this extraordinary display, a junior scientist burst onto the bridge. "Commander, we've decoded part of their transmissions." Lysara turned. "What transmissions?" "The quantum fluctuations we detected. They're not just propulsion signatures. They're communications. The humans are talking to every version of their ship across multiple realities simultaneously." The implications hit Lysara like a physical blow. The humans hadn't set a fleet because they didn't need to. Each ship could be many ships, could be anywhere, could operate under whatever laws of physics best suited their needs at any moment. "Captain Patel," she called, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. "I have to ask, why are you showing us all this?" The human captain's image appeared on their main screen, her expression serious for the first time. "Because, Commander Venn, the galaxy is changing. There are things out there that operate beyond conventional physics, things your civilization isn't prepared for. We believe it's time for the Confederation to expand its understanding of what's possible." "And you're willing to share this technology?" Lysara asked, hardly daring to hope. Patel smiled again, but this time there was a hint of sadness in it. "Share? Commander, we're not here to give you technology. We're here to teach you how to discover it for yourselves. Humanity learned long ago that given knowledge isn't half as valuable as earned understanding." As the demonstrations continued, Lysara couldn't help but wonder if this was how ancient peoples felt when they first encountered electricity, or nuclear power, or the stars themselves. They weren't just witnessing new technology, they were seeing the future of what was possible. And somewhere in the quantum dance of the aurora, in its casual defiance of universal constants, lay a truth that would forever change the way the Confederation viewed its place in the cosmos. In the secure depths of Confederation Station Alpha, the Emergency Council had convened. Representatives from 32 species sat in the circular chamber, their attention focused on the holographic display showing the TNT Aurora's latest demonstrations. High Counselor Thex of the militant Kraxan Alliance slammed his armored fist on the table. "This is unacceptable. One human vessel has more military potential than our entire combined fleet." Admiral Vrel, her scales now a measured shade of diplomatic green, stood at the center of the chamber. "The humans have shown no hostile intent. In fact, they've been remarkably transparent. Transparent?" interrupted Counselor Zyra of the Methulian Collective, her silver skin flickering with agitation patterns. "They appeared from nowhere with technology that breaks the fundamental laws of physics. Their ship can multiply itself, traverse realities, and probably do dozens of things we haven't even seen yet. How is that transparent?" The chamber erupted in overlapping arguments until a soft chime cut through the chaos. All eyes turned to the entrance, where Security Chief Niran Voss stood, with an unexpected guest, Captain Patel herself. "My apologies for the interruption," Patel said, stepping into the chamber. "But I couldn't help overhearing your concerns. Perhaps I can provide some context?" The room fell silent. Patel walked to the center, her simple black uniform a stark contrast to the ornate diplomatic garb of the council members. She touched a small device on her wrist, and suddenly the holographic display transformed into a vast three-dimensional map of the galaxy. "What you're seeing," she explained, "is not just our galaxy, but all possible versions of it across quantum realities." The bright points are where different realities intersect, what we call quantum nodes. The map was beautiful and terrifying in its complexity. Countless versions of the galaxy overlapped and intertwined, creating patterns that seemed to shift and breathe. 50 years ago, Patel continued, humanity discovered something remarkable. The universe isn't just stranger than we imagined, it's stranger than we can imagine. We found that consciousness itself influences quantum states. The more minds focused on a possibility, the more real it becomes. She gestured, and the map zoomed in on a particular region. In this sector alone, there are civilizations that have evolved beyond physical form. There are beings that exist simultaneously across all timelines. There are threats that your current understanding of physics says cannot exist, and yet they do. High Counselor Thex leaned forward. Threats? What threats? The void between realities isn't empty, Patel said softly. There are entities that feed on possibility itself. We call them quantum hunters. They're drawn to civilizations that begin to experiment with quantum technology. That's partly why we're here. Admiral Vral's scales shifted to a deep purple of realization. You're not just making first contact. You're warning us. And protecting you. Patel nodded. Every demonstration we performed has been carefully calculated to strengthen the quantum barrier around your space. We're teaching you to see reality as it truly is, yes, but we're also helping you fortify your corner of existence. Why not simply give us the technology to defend ourselves? Asked Counselor Zyra. Patel's expression grew serious. Because technology without understanding is incredibly dangerous. Imagine giving fusion weapons to a civilization that hasn't discovered atomic theory. The result would be catastrophic. She touched her wrist device again, and the hologram showed a simulation of a ship similar to the Aurora, but the design was clearly Confederation in origin. This is what your civilization could achieve within 20 years with proper guidance. Not by copying our technology, but by discovering your own path to quantum awareness. And what do you want in return? Thex demanded. Partners, Patel replied simply. Allies who understand what we're facing. The quantum hunters aren't the only threat out there, and humanity has been standing guard alone for too long. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans hadn't sent a fleet because they were operating on a completely different level of existence. Their single ship was both an embassy and a shield, a teacher and a guardian. There's something else you should know, Patel added, her voice gentle but firm. We've detected quantum disturbances in this sector. The hunters are coming. We estimate you have perhaps 5 years before they arrive. The question is, will your civilization be ready? Admiral Vral stepped forward, her scales shifting to a determined gold. How do we begin? Patel smiled, and for a moment, the assembled council members could have sworn they saw multiple versions of her overlapping, each slightly different, but all wearing the same expression of hope. We start, she said, by teaching you to see the impossible. The council chamber erupted in discussion again, but this time the tone was different. Fear was giving way to curiosity, suspicion to determination. As the debates continued, Patel stood quietly at the center, her presence a reminder that the universe was far vaster and stranger than anyone had imagined. And in the space around the station, the TND Aurora continued its quantum dance, each movement strengthening the invisible barriers that protected this small corner of reality from horrors that lurked between the possibilities. The Learning Center, hastily established aboard Confederation Station Alpha, hummed with activity. 3 months had passed since the humans' arrival, and everything had changed. The massive chamber, once a ceremonial hall, now housed the strangest collection of equipment the Confederation had ever seen. Commander Lasara Vin stood before a group of selected scientists from various species, her eyes fixed on the device floating in the center of the room, a sphere of shifting light that seemed to exist in multiple places simultaneously. Focus, instructed Training Director Raj Singh, his calm voice carrying across the chamber. Remember, the quantum state responds to conscious observation. Don't try to understand it, try to be it. The assembled scientists, representing the brightest minds in the Confederation, strained with concentration. The sphere flickered, split into 3 versions, then snapped back together. Better, Raj nodded. Much better than last week. Remember what Captain Patel taught us. Reality is not fixed. It's a consensus. In another section of the station, Admiral Vral attended a different kind of lesson. Captain Patel stood before the Confederation's military leadership, discussing defense strategies that seemed to defy logic itself. The key, Patel explained, manipulating a holographic display, is to understand that a quantum shield doesn't just block attacks, it prevents the possibility of the attack ever happening. When you can influence probability itself, traditional military doctrine becomes flexible. A gruff Craxton general raised his armored hand. But how can we defend against something that can attack from multiple realities simultaneously? That's exactly the point. Patel smiled. You don't defend against it, you make it impossible for it to exist in the first place. Meanwhile, in the diplomatic wing, tension was brewing. Representatives from several conservative factions had called an emergency session. Counselor Zyra presided over the heated debate. The humans are changing everything too quickly, argued a Vexillian diplomat, his crystalline form vibrating with agitation. Our entire understanding of physics, of reality itself, is being overturned. There must be limits. First observer Krill, who had become an unexpected advocate for the humans, countered sharply. The quantum hunters won't wait for us to be comfortable with change. Either we adapt or we perish. The debate was interrupted by an urgent communication. In the Learning Center, something extraordinary had happened. Commander Vin rushed to the observation deck, where Admiral Vral and Captain Patel were already waiting. Below them, in the main chamber, a group of young scientists from different species had achieved something unprecedented. The quantum sphere they had been practicing with hadn't just split, it had transformed. The scientists had worked together to create a miniature version of the quantum barrier that the Aurora used, a feat that should have been impossible at this stage. How? Admiral Vral asked, her scales shifting through patterns of amazement. They stopped trying to do it alone, Patel explained, genuine pride in her voice. When they linked their consciousness, when they truly worked together across species barriers, they created something new. Something neither humanity nor the Confederation had seen before. The implications were staggering. The humans weren't just teaching the Confederation to use their technology, they were helping them develop their own unique approach to quantum manipulation. But not everyone was celebrating. In the shadows of the station's lower levels, a group of traditionalists from various species met in secret. They saw the rapid changes as a threat to their power, their understanding, their very way of life. The humans must be stopped, whispered a hooded figure, before they change us beyond recognition. Little did they know, their gathering had already been observed not by security cameras or spies, but by the quantum sensors that the Aurora maintained around the station. Captain Patel watched their meeting through multiple quantum states, her expression concerned but not surprised. Should we intervene? Raj asked, standing beside her in the Aurora's observation room. No, Patel replied. Change always brings resistance. But watch this. She gestured to a holographic display showing quantum probability streams. The conspiracy gathering was already affecting the timeline, but not in the way its participants intended. Their resistance was actually accelerating the Confederation's adaptation to quantum reality. Sometimes, Patel mused, the strongest push for progress comes from those who oppose it most fiercely. As if to prove her point, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. The quantum sensors had detected something massive approaching not through normal space, but through the void between realities. Admiral, Patel's voice was urgent as she contacted Vral. It seems our timeline has been accelerated. The hunters have noticed our activities. They're coming. How long do we have? Vral demanded. Hours, not years as we hoped. They're drawn to the quantum experimentation like moths to flame. Patel paused, then added, It's time to see if your people are ready for their first real test. The station erupted into controlled chaos as the Confederation faced its first quantum-level crisis. But as fear spread through the corridors, something unexpected happened. The scientists who had been training in the Learning Center began to coordinate with their military counterparts. New ideas, impossible just months ago, started to flow. The humans had done their job well. The Confederation was starting to think in quantum terms, to see reality not as fixed but as a sea of possibility. The question was, would it be enough? The void between realities tore open, like a wound in space itself. Through the quantum sensors, the Confederation forces watched in horror as the hunters emerged vast, geometrically impossible shapes that seemed to fold through dimensions that shouldn't exist. By the first light, whispered Admiral Vral, her scales shifting to a deep shade of fear purple. They're beautiful. Indeed, despite their terrifying nature, the quantum hunters possessed an otherworldly beauty. They moved like living mathematics, each motion rippling through multiple realities simultaneously. 5 of them approached the station, their forms distorting space around them. Captain Patel stood on the Aurora's bridge, surveying multiple quantum states at once. Remember your training? She broadcast to the assembled Confederation fleet. Don't think in terms of conventional warfare. Think in terms of possibility. The combined fleet of the Confederation had gathered 500 ships of various designs and capabilities. Over the past 3 months, each had been modified with prototype quantum technology, developed through the collaboration between human teachers and Confederation scientists. Commander Lasara Vin's voice came over the comm. All quantum synchronization fields are active. The Learning Center teams are in position. This was the true test, not just of technology, but of understanding. The Confederation forces had to prove they could do more than just copy human techniques. They had to show they understood the fundamental nature of quantum reality. The hunters struck first. One of them simply erased a Confederation cruiser from existence, not destroying it, but making it so the ship had never been built in the first place. The crew's families would have no memories of them. Their records would show different careers, different lives. But something unexpected happened. The ship reappeared, its quantum signature stronger than before. It worked! Raj Singh's voice was triumphant. The consciousness linking is holding. The combined memories of the fleet are anchoring our ships in reality. This was what the humans had been preparing them for. Not just quantum technology, but quantum consciousness, the ability to maintain reality through shared will and understanding. The battle that followed defied conventional description. The Confederation fleet, led by the Aurora, engaged the hunters in a conflict that took place across multiple dimensions and realities simultaneously. Ships didn't just fire weapons, they rewrote probability. They didn't just dodge attacks, they chose timelines where the attacks never happened. In the Learning Center, scientists from 32 species worked in perfect harmony, their minds linked through quantum technology of their own design. They weren't just supporting the fleet, they were strengthening the very fabric of their reality. The hunters, for the first time in their unfathomable existence, faced prey that understood the true nature of reality. They could no longer simply unmake what they wished to destroy, because the Confederation had learned to exist across multiple quantum states simultaneously. The turning point came when a young Mathilian scientist in the Learning Center had an insight that even the humans hadn't considered. She realized that the hunters themselves were bound by rules, not the rules of physical reality, but the rules of quantum probability. They can only exist, she broadcast to the fleet, because we believe they can exist if we change our fundamental understanding of reality. The assembled minds of the Confederation grasped the concept simultaneously. Led by the Aurora, the entire fleet began to pulse with quantum energy. They weren't trying to destroy the hunters, they were redefining the possible. The hunters began to fade, their impossible geometries becoming less real with each passing moment. They fought back, trying to unmake their opponents, but the combined consciousness of the Confederation held firm. Finally, with a reality-bending flash, the hunters vanished. Not destroyed, but transformed, their very nature changed by the collective will of a civilization that had learned to see beyond the obvious. In the aftermath, Captain Patel gathered the Confederation leadership on the Aurora's bridge. "You understand now," she said, "why we came with just one ship. Why we insisted you learn instead of simply giving you technology?" Admiral Vral's scales shifted to a color of deep understanding. "Because the ship wasn't the point. The technology wasn't the point. It was about changing how we think, how we perceive reality itself." "Exactly," Patel smiled. "One ship was enough because we weren't here to show you our power. We were here to help you discover your own." The TND Aurora remained with the Confederation for another year, helping them establish their own quantum research facilities and training programs. But when it finally departed, it left behind more than just technology. It left a civilization transformed, one that had learned to see reality not as a fixed set of rules, but as an infinite sea of possibility. And in the quantum realm between realities, the transformed hunters watched with something approaching curiosity as their former prey became something new, not just users of quantum technology, but shapers of reality itself. The mystery of why humans had sent just one ship was no longer a mystery at all. They had sent exactly what was needed, not a demonstration of force, but a key to understanding. Not a fleet to protect, but a teacher to inspire. One ship had been enough to change everything.